Have you ever been lovesick or heartbroken? Because I have definitely been both. And it's not a fun feeling. It's like a pain you can't really describe because it's internal. It just feels like your body is collapsing on itself. Or at least that's how I feel when I've been lovesick or heartbroken. Human love or like relational love can be so unfulfilling at times because people don't meet your expectations, people drop the ball, and how are you supposed to deal with that? Like, you really thought this relationship or this experience was going to give to you what you put into it. And sometimes you could be in the wrong too, but it just doesn't pan out how you thought it was going to pan out. And then you kind of feel like you've wasted your time, you've wasted your energy, and like, what was the point of it all? Hey y'all, so in today's video, we're going to talk about love and really talking about true love. What is it? Why does it matter so much to us? And just some encouragement for you all on how to really identify true love, what true love is, and what true love means as defined by God. Growing up, I grew up in a very loving household, loving family. It was not traditional in some senses because it was just me, an only child, with the love of my mother. And I was really close with my extended family. My older cousins, all female, became like my older sisters. My aunt and my uncle became like extended parental figures to me. And that was just that was kind of my, what felt like my nuclear family. And then obviously I had cousins and extended family outside of that. So that really defined what love was for me, especially as I started branching out to develop friendship relationships and other external relationships outside of my family. And so for me, I thought love was laughter, and I thought it was time spent together. I thought it was always like positive interactions, having fun, always good things, always comfy, never really any tension or strain or anything that was unsavory, if you will, no wrongdoing. And that worked. That was indeed love as I had known it. But then as I started branching out outside of familial relationships, I started to discover other kinds of love. I started to be faced with unrequited love or like love that was just cut off or taken away from you, maybe premature love or young love, if you will, puppy love. And I had different experiences that were not like what I knew to be love. And many of those relationships didn't last. And I think that's because they weren't really love. Love is a term that we throw out so often. Um, but it's so strong. And sometimes it's really just a deep like, not really a deep love. And I think that we get a little confused. I think we get a little confused on what love really is. And what I've come to learn through, reading the Bible, being in my word, and having more mature examples of love or experiences of love is that love is patient, it's kind, it's not jealous, it's not self serving, it doesn't remember your wrongdoings. Um, it fights for truth and justice. It endures hardships and maintains hope for the future. And that is from 1 Corinthians 13 and 4, paraphrased. But that is heavier than what I really thought love was growing up. The reason why I wanted to pull from first First Corinthians 13 and 4 is because in a world where there's a lot of fake love, There's a lot of definitions of love. I wanted to pull from a source of truth or the source of truth on what love is to help myself, but also you all kind of clear through the murky waters of what people are telling you love is. And you can kind of always go back to this and say, does the love that I'm receiving in this situation align with what I know love to be? And if it's not, then you can, rewire your brain to say, that's not love, that's something else. And maybe you have to define what that something else is, but at least you know it's not love, because I think once the love gets into the equation, our heart and our mind start to lose the connection. And, you start to act off of impulse and emotion when sometimes, sometimes there's a place for that. But I think that sometimes you could make decisions that aren't wise because you think it's love, or you think that this thing, this person, this experience will love you in a way that you want to be loved, when really it is not going to do that. It's not going to give you love and true love in return. God's love, and what the scripture shows us, and what I've been learning, is that God's love is incomparable and unexplainable. Um, I mean, there's been times when I have wept, cried out, like, why is this happening to me? Why is this thing that I loved so much um, not giving me what I put into it? And that is a hard pill to swallow. But if it's harder in the moment, but when you can take a step back and think, maybe God was protecting me from something. Maybe God was preparing me for something. This season of hardship is not lack of love, but it is actually the presence of true love and protection and preparation. So that way, when I am put in a position to be where I'm supposed to be, not just where I want to be, I'm ready for that place. That was a hard pill to swallow. And that's a lesson that I've had to learn multiple times through multiple different scenarios, where it's me wanting to be somewhere or be a part of something that rejected me, or be engaged in a certain way that I wanted to be because I felt like I was doing all that I was supposed to, and I wasn't ready for that stage yet. And so, again, I got rejected. Or even in relationships where you're like, well, this is what I think love should be. I want you to be this way for me. But that's not what we need, because that's just what's comfortable, what we're used to. And that's not always what love is. Sometimes love is setting a boundary, setting a standard or expectation to help you grow and to help you become a better person. And when you look back at it, and you can see like how you were protected and preserved, um, I think those are the instances where you can see God's love. And as you get closer to God, if that is your desire, you'll be able to see it kind of in the midst of it all, and you can skip over that phase of weeping and hurt, because you know like, God, you've carried me through in the past. I know you'll do it again. And so you start to feel that comfort. And it's interesting because everything around you from the outside looking in would look like a situation of uncertainty or uncomfortability. But when you are confident in God's love and understanding that His love prevails and His love is there for your benefit, then you start to have that hope for the future. You start to be able to endure hard things because you know that you'll be carried through to success. I want to talk on love and relationships a little bit more. Um, I'm speaking about how God's love helps to prepare us, and not really prepare us, but prepare us for where He wants us to be, but it has hope for the future. And although it's not always positive in the moment, or it doesn't always feel positive, I should say, the outcome is positivity or success, and, just in new life and restoration and salvation. But relationally, we should be looking for our relationships to mimic that. We're human, we're never going to be God or like God, but our relationships, healthy, loving relationships, should not belittle us. And that's hard because, like I said, once you're caught into something or caught into a relationship and you think it's love and your heart is intertwined and you're not thinking clearly, you start to think, oh, it's just this moment, or I did something to offend that person, or I'm deserving of this treatment. What we see is that even in our hard times, or even when we're doing wrong, God is still ready to welcome us. Well, okay, let me not say when we're doing wrong. God is still loving on us when we're doing wrong. When we stray away from what we know is right, God is always welcoming us back in with open arms and love. But true love doesn't want to put you down. It doesn't want to keep record of all of the things that you may have done wrong in the past, because ultimately we're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to have a record of our wrongdoings. But true love doesn't hold that over your head and kind of pushes you down to elevate itself, or the person who's trying to say that they love you to elevate themselves. And that is, I want to encourage you all out there that it's easier said than done. I've lived enough life now to know that it's easier said than done to remove yourself from a situation that you once thought was love, or that maybe once was love. But I want to encourage you that love should be supporting your dreams in a way that they're they're beneficial to you. Um, it should be uplifting you and encouraging you. It should be helping you through tough times instead of, forcing you to do it on your own or isolating you. Um, it should be speaking positivity or encouragement, I should say, into your life. And it should be there for you in your times of trials. Love does not mean that you won't experience hardship, but it means that it remains, it sustains in the midst of the hardship. And that is not always, comfortable or fun, but it doesn't run away or it doesn't abandon you in those times, because it knows that there's hope for the future. That if you continue working on it, if you continue to make the right decisions as best as you can, there are brighter days ahead. Um, and I don't want, especially for my women, I don't want you all to be like, I love this person because look all the things that they did for me and the outside looks shiny. But what is the character? What is the fruit of that person? Are they really there to support you and to uplift you and encourage you to be a better version of yourself? Or do they only like you when you're doing well? Do they only like you when you fit their description of how they want you to be? Um, and that's just a special call out for my ladies, because oftentimes we're such emotional creatures and beings that we often, you know, feel things more deeply, and we're like, maybe it's us. We get in situations that sometimes we can shrink ourselves to let the man shine, or to let them, try to maintain the peace. But there's a maintaining the peace, and this is not a situation of true love. So I want to encourage you to really reflect on what true love is, and then measure up the situations that you're in if you're not in a positive situation, and really assess as to whether that person really does love you how they say they do. When you're engaging with love, you're exposing yourself to potential heartbreak. It is just par for the course. And heartbreak can vary. From my experience, heartbreak can vary in terms of delayed gratification or delayed acceptance. It could be total rejection and removal of that situation or person from your life. And heartbreak could teach you about faith. um, And it's a season of heartbreak to help strengthen and enable your faith for the future. But the point is that heartbreak is not the end of your story. Heartbreak feels in that moment like someone is literally ripping your heart out of your body. And it is like a gnawing, aching pain. I know when I'm experiencing heartbreak, I feel like I cannot breathe. I feel like my physical body is like going on and my heart is like 3 steps behind. Um, and it's maddening. It is a maddening feeling to be going through heartbreak. But there's always tomorrow. And it doesn't feel like that in the midst of heartbreak and in the midst of that season. But there's always tomorrow where I want you to know that your heartbreak is not the end of your story. It's not the end. It might be the end of this chapter in your story, but it doesn't end there for you. And I may ask you to seek comfort in God. When you're finding that the people, the situations, the experiences are not loving you in the way that you're not, or in a way that you weren't expecting, um, seek true love. I know that you can always find true love through God. And like I mentioned before, 1 Corinthians 13:4 is really helpful and powerful for me as a baseline to what love is and to be able to compare, you know, situations that I'm going through into or to what love is or what true love is. And through that, you can really see how God is able and willing to love you and to comfort you in the midst of these situations. And if nothing else, if nothing else in this world loves you, God loves you and He will continue to love you. And in the midst of Him continuing to love you, He will provide restoration and healing for that heartbreak. He will restore you to greater than where you began. And He's always willing to listen, to hear you cry, but also to uplift you and provide you with strength in the midst of the storm and healing in the midst of that season. Um, and so I encourage you to seek Him if you are in a season of heartbreak and if you are in a season of confusion around what love is and why is this situation loving me the way that that it is when I feel like I'm loving it. And it will also help you. Are you loving others in situations the way you're supposed to? Are you being true in terms of how you're giving love? Because it's also important for us to reflect on ourselves and how we're giving love, not just how we're receiving love. Because relationships are always going to be twofold. It will be what the other person did, but it's also what did you do? And not to say what did you do to cause that. Sometimes it is, not in a negative way, but are you operating from a strong foundation, or are you loving that person incorrectly and they're reacting incorrectly? So it's a point of reflection not only for them but for you. So we answered the question, what is love? What does that feel like? We talked about heartbreak. We talked about hope and restoration from heartbreak. We talked about what love isn't, what love is. And, if you have a situation in which you've experienced impure, untrue love, or even heartbreak, I want you to think on that, reflect on that, reflect on moving forward how you can surround yourselves with situations of true love or how you can have different expectations of love and set those expectations to desire true love for yourself and kind of draw and attract that to yourself. I think it starts with first understanding and internalizing what true love is, and then kind of being able to confidently communicate that with others, what you are expecting, what doesn't work for you, what is not true love, and being able to heal the parts of yourself that maybe once were heartbroken or once experienced impure love. So that way, as you continue to move forward in your life, you restructure and reframe how you view love. Um, I don't really know how this topic came to me, but no, that's not true. God gave me this topic, and I think in a time such as this where everyone is hurting, everyone is, looking outside and externally and seeing like how could people do these things? How could people operate this way, such, inhumane ways? I think it's important for us to center ourselves on what true love is and be vehicles of true love into the world, whether it's personally in our relationships, whether it is, the love we put forth to strangers that we don't know, whether it is love through fighting for justice for our neighbors or being truthful about what is right and what is wrong. I think that there's so many ways that we can spread love to others. Um, but we first have to know what true love is. And so that was really my motivation for this video. I hope it inspired you. I hope it encouraged you. And my last thing is that I want you to remember that I love you, but God loves you more. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, like this video, comment if any of this resonated with you, and subscribe if you're interested in my content and want to see more of what I have to say.